Hello guys, so welcome again. Last time what I did was add some handlers, but now uh, yesterday I was working on some yesterday I was thinking about this project, so I thought, why not create a library out of this. um, I had two options in mind. Let me just show you my options, what I had. One was creating a library. This was creating a library. What it will give me is users of Golang can import. I can just remove this one. Can import the library using go get. So what it will do is only Golang supported for handlers. So each job has a handler. So only Golang handlers will be supported. Like the functions written in Go, only that will be supported. It has some pros. The pros will be faster than network calls. You might be wondering where the network calls come from. I mean, if I use something like all language interfaces, so that anyone can write a function in any language, and my package will just execute it using network calls. So it will be faster than network calls, but the single con is only Golang supported. So what I'm thinking is, currently I can create a library out of this. Currently I can create a library out of this, but in later phases what I'll do is I'll also create a binary which users can use to call through network, so that other language users can also work on it. But for that I'll need to add some complexity so that I'm slower because of network calls. So for this issue, what I'm thinking is, first I'll create a binary. Alright, and then I'll transition it to here. From library, first I'll maintain a library, and then I'll just go from a library implementation to library plus binary implementation. So for library, it's easy. I'll need to expose some methods. I'll need to write some documentations, and most of the work is done. I just need to create some library modules, and that's all. So let's get started. But before that, I need to add one handler in this version. After that, I'll call it day, and then I'll move to the library implementation. So let's go with the handler I need to add. Currently, the create job handler creates the job on default queue. That was I was checking. That what I was checking. So what I'll do is I'll create another handler, which will be like uh, let me just turn off my AI. Okay, so it will be a handler which will HTTP handler which will create a job on a particular queue. Job with queue. Okay. Job on queue is much better. create job on queue. So what I'll do is I'll use simply the WR strategy, and then I'll move to this one, and then I'll just use this and only one difference from the above code. Everything will be particularly the same mostly. So what I'll do is in the first line, as always, request equals to job create job require. So I have a request type, request variable. So here I was getting the default queue, but here I will get the queue. Firstly, I'll get the name of the queue the user sends. So what I'll do is queue q equals to q equals to g dot url param. So the user will send something like, firstly let me just write the code. Okay, so the request will be like slash jobs slash queue name. Something like this will be our request. So I'll get the queue name from here, and then all of that like this. I'll get the queue from our queue manager. Let me get the queue name from here so that I can copy paste from queue name from here. Then the queue comma our error if any occurs from our h dot queue manager dot get what's our queue name, that's queue name, and that's all we need. Okay, so I got a queue, and for the error I'll just can't get default queue. Instead of this I can write something like can't get queue with this name. For now this is okay. Okay, then validate body JSON and validate the job data. Everything will be same for our queue context here. So what I'll do is let me just check it is validating the body, then it is validating the job data if types are equal in priority. Just that's it. Then it will build the job. Okay, building the job, then it saves the job in the store, right? Then it enqueues the job, enqueue, and enqueue. Okay, it will take the queue, and that will enqueue, and that's all we need. All right, so the function is done. We need to just attach it to the interface I have, sorry, to the router I have. So I'll post request from here. The string will be jobs slash queue. Oh, whoa. Now there will be an issue. Let me think about this. Jobs slash ID. There's no differentiator between if ID will be improved. It will be, let's name it queue jobs slash queue jobs h dot create job on a queue. Let's test this out. Once we test this out, I'll move to the library implementation. What I'll do is let's build build not this one, sorry, dash o cmd, sorry, what was our, what's this? Oh yeah, dot slash cmd slash server go files and main.go. No go files and home. Oh, sorry. Slash cmd, no. Why is this failing? What was the command I used? This one, okay. I'll never send the name, okay. Okay, now we have a built queue ready. Built version ready. Let's go to GoTaskQ. So it started. What I'll do is I'll create a new queue using whatever, yeah, this. I'll create a new queue. So both the testing will be done. Curl dash dash yes. So the queue name should be XYZ. Okay. We created a new queue. What I'll do is I'll create a new job on that queue. Where's our how did I create a job? It should be above. I just need to copy the job, That's why I'm going here. Slash queue name should be XYZ. Okay, let's see our input. Started the service. Run after. What is the run after here? Max retry 3, priority 5. Call status pending, priority 5. Max retry this. Retry created at this with this. What is the job type? Type is ABC. Yeah, that's the issue. I need to type it as logger type. That's why I was not logging it properly. How can I check if it was created on our default queue or on our run after? Plus 530. 12 plus 530. It should have been done right. Let me check. Curl HTTP localhost 8000 matrix. I need to grep for what was our name of the matrix? Let me check. Jobs and queue, job duration, active workers, queue depth. I need to check queue depth. Grep go task queue. I can go for go task queue. Active workers 10, jobs and queue this, jobs counter, jobs and queue total queue XYZ. Yeah, queue XYZ has a type ABC1, queue XYZ has a type logger1. Okay, so it's working. Why is it taking so long? I have to check main.go. I think I have, what I have done is, where's our main.go? So the logger takes 1 milliseconds. Then why is it not logging? It should log, right? If I create a job without this, does it log? It doesn't. And what about the matrix? Queue default queue as a type logger. Why are the queues not getting processed? This is the question. It was working fine. Queues are not getting processed. Does it need how I create the job? I create a job like this, type logger, message from Perl, priority 5, max retries 3. This shouldn't be the issue. I need to just go for this one again. Depth is still 1. Why are the jobs not getting dequeued? Is it the processing happening? It was working fine. What can be the issue? What I changed from the last time was adding the config Q factory. Does Q factory make any problem with the working? I have to check it. Let's debug this. So our metrics are telling us that Q depth is not getting. What were the changes I did in the last 2 days? I added Q factory, a handler helper, the Q factory, refactor the server struct, add Q factory, implement Q factory, that's the update really. Changes, that's not reduced, job handling sleep. That until this point everything was working. After this point these are just readme changes. Then I added factory.go. Okay, what the factory does is it creates a factory, a memory factory, and a Redis factory. New Redis factory. What it does, it creates a client, and I don't think Redis factory will interfere with this one. Is it using Redis? It is using in-memory backend. Can that be the issue? If that is the issue, I have to check the in-memory. Let me check one thing more. Unblocked, and after unblock the process did not close. That's an issue. Blocking unblocked. Okay, worker pool dot stop. So worker pool might get stopped. After that, where's my defer? First defer is stop. It will stop the signal, and then there's no graceful shutdown happening right now. There's something wrong with the memory handler. Currently, okay. After def, what's then? Any other defer I have here? I don't think so. I have any other defer, so it should stop. It should notify the context using context.background and turn off the signal. Why is there issue? Let me just delete the session itself. Let me delete this and delete this too. What I'll do is set. Let's go with the Redis-based backend, and let's try with that one. What I'll do is curl. Instead of metrics, first I'll do is create a queue, name this, and then I'll create a job in that queue, which is a type of logger job. It's running fine. So the issue is with the memory based backend. What can be the issue? We have to go through that. But let's first check everything is working. What I'll do is I'll check the metrics for the metrics part. Scroll to our metrics and grab GoTaskQ. Okay, job duration was this, default, Q was default, type logger. Why was the Q default? Q default, type logger 1. Why was a Q default? Okay, I wrote the Q as a default Q. Let me go for XYZ Q and then try for I'll check the default Q. Yeah, this one, jobs and queue total controls. Let's see. What I'll do is instead of grabbing this, I'll grab this and let's check. Yep, multiple queue support is working. There's no issue in that one. Again, one thing I noticed is it worked, but it didn't print anything. Why this can be issue? This is an issue. This is an issue. This is an issue. Multiple queues are working, but it isn't printing anything. I need to check the histogram, so I'll check the GoTaskQ, and bucket is our default bucket. Only default bucket is working. Why is the histogram of our XYZ bucket is not this XYZ queue is not working? I need to check this out. Status pending priority 5, delay this, and does the DQ after, okay, let's walk through everything what I have built. Queue, we will need to go to queue. In the it has NQ, DQ, length, and name. So Redis implementation, the default queue was working fine, but the queue with the name as XYZ is not working. So it will do is new Redis queue. It will create a new Redis queue and set the queue depth as queue name 0. That all is working because queue depth was absolutely 0, and then it got to 1, and currently the queue depth of XYZ is 2. So this new queue creation is working, NQ. So we are validating the context, and then we are doing is tx pipeline this Redis queue dot payload key. What is the payload key? GoTaskQ queue. Okay. Tx pipeline payload key units. NQ Redis transaction. This worked fine. NQ worked fine. Now with DQ, we are doing the Lua script. I'll check the Lua script in a second. First, I need to check. Is there an issue? If there is an issue, that should have been reflected here, but it didn't reflect here. It's failing silently. I need to check job processing instead of NQDQ. So let me check how the worker processes the job. So for that, what I'll check is start. When I start, I'll at the start I assign num workers. Okay. While running, it differs the then matrix increase the active workers counts, and matrix dot decrease active worker counts. Worker count, as I remember, was fine. Active workers are 100. Why is active workers always 100? That's also an issue. I have to address some issues. Let me just write these issues in my reference docs. Issues.txt. Oh, sorry. Issues.txt. Okay. So first issue, workers in matrix always 100/num workers. Okay. Second issue, processing of jobs not happening outside default queue. Okay. Third issue is that we check that the memory queue implementation is broken. Not even default queue is working there. Okay, let's see what are the issues. So while running worker, it creates a notifier. Okay, subscribe to notification. So subscribe notification, what this does is it creates a channel struct, and where it is used only here. I need to check how subscribe notification is being returned, has been returned. So subscribe notification is that it takes Redis-q dot client dot subscribe. So Redis-q, it takes a queue. Okay, but its client and subscribe it to notify key and receive subscribe key notification field. I should have seen something like that, but I didn't, so it's not the issue. So PubSub receives the message and then it sends, and there's also an unsubscribe function. It doesn't revolve around my issue. I'll come to it later. First I need to check the processing. What I'll do is what processing does. Queue name unknown. Okay, it sets the queue name to unknown. If pool.queue is not nil, what is the queue? It is a type of queue.queue. Okay, if it is not nil, then queue name is equal to pool.queue.name. Okay, we'll take the name of the queue. Then job type is unknown. Then we will take the job type from j.type, and we'll start status field. Do I need to check retry? Can I check this? Still the queue depth is 2. There's the issue here, man. There's the issue here. This is just matrix. It is observable job duration and increase job processed. Job processed total counter queue default. Only one job has been processed. Add that too. Only in the default queue. That's the issue. Why there's only one job being processed and that too only in default queue? What can be the issue? It updates the status to running. It updates the status to running. Let's check the job status now. What was our, let me check. Yeah, this, I can get the job ID. I can get the job by job ID. Okay, job/id. Where's my job ID? This is the job ID. I'm particularly interested because this was the first job created. See. Okay, what I'll do is curl http localhost 8000 /jobs/id. That's this. Okay, type logger, payload null, status is pending. Status is pending means the status is pending. Process job, what it does is when does it update the status to running, mark the job as running after there is no error, which there shouldn't have been one because job duration, job processed. Yeah, there's the issue. It never reaches this part. Why it never reaches this part? Why it never reaches this part? Job status is pending. It should have been running. It should have been running, and that goes to our queue. It means the queue didn't dequeue the job. It means the queue did not dequeue the job at all. Why didn't it dequeue the job? That's a question we have to answer. Like, it firstly checks. It is on Redis-q. This does is func Redis-q. On a Redis-q, the dequeue function does is it will validate the context and eval the dequeue ready Lua script. One thing I need to check is, let me create a job with the what we say is priority greater than 5, priority is 10, max retries is 3, and one more thing. What was it? Delay, if I am not wrong. Let me just go through it and check. What was it? It was delay in seconds, and let's add a delay of around 20 seconds. Let's try this. So it should run after some time. Let's wait for 20 seconds. If it doesn't run, then the issue is with Lua script. If it does run, sorry. If it does run, then the issue is with Lua script. Let's see how it goes. Nothing. Let's wait for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nothing here. Not even job started. When does the job started signal come? Started the service and blocking. Where is the job started? Shift F. Job started. Okay. So it never reaches the handler, because if it reaches the handler, to reach the handler, it needs to go to the worker, and worker needs to go get the job from DQ. So DQ is the main issue here. Why there is an issue in DQ? Both in memory.go there is an issue in DQ too. First let's focus on redis.go. Observe notifications. Redis-q validate context encode decode. Redis interface, it doesn't need this one. So what I'm doing is I'm creating local variable items and calling this Redis to give me the items with scores based on keys 1. What's my keys 1? I need to check it. Where's the eval? So redis-q.key. Redis-q.key. How is the redis-q.key created? Key ffmt.sprint sprint f. Can I check my Redis instance? Should I check my Redis instance? That's the question. Let me check my Redis instance. How can I check my Redis instance currently? Let me just search the Google. Instead of searching Google, I can ask GPT instead. How can I check my Redis instance? How to check my Redis storage currently? Check items in my Redis storage. Connect to Redis CLI. Do I have Redis CLI? If I remember, I do have. Yep, I have Redis CLI. Then I'll do is list all keys. I have a small data set, so I can do this. What the hell? Why are there so many jobs? What the hell? This should never happen. Let's do one other command, which is Redis CLI scan 0. this one. I need to particularly check the queue. There's something wrong with my Redis implementation. 7.2 was my, and I can't see that. Mm, Clear my Redis instance. How can I clear? What are the DBs? Show. What should be the DB? Show DB. Show D. List. In SQL, I used select DB. No, how to show the DBs? How to show DBs? Get databases. So okay, so I have this one, config get databases. I have databases and I have 16. What the hell? Will look like this means you have DB 0 to 50. See which DB has data. Info key space. DB 0 keys. This expires 30. It's 3 lakh keys. There are 3 lakh keys. That's not common, you know. Info key space and average TTL is 0. I didn't set the TTL. There can be issue with three lakhs keys. That's quite a lot. That's a potential issue that none of them have a TTL. I also need to set the TTL. Scan 0 and count 20. I need to flush. I'm not using DA. Flush all. Okay. Let's restart the instance. Like, let me create one job and check how many are created in Redis. Was that an issue with my Redis instance? I don't know what happened, but now I only see this. Still no, not working. Some things I need to do is, does it delete the job from Redis? Where's D key? I need to check. That might have been the Redis instance might have been the old one. Let me just go for this one. I need to check and queue. What it does is not call. It removes. Set rem key should be our items keys. That's an issue. Okay. So this is not an issue. Let me check all other DBs. I have 16 databases. I have key spaces, only 3 keys. Config database. scan 0 out 20. So first 20 gives us 3. What about I create one in the normal one, not like in this one? It didn't run. It didn't run. So the issue is after calling using XYZ. So the queue is XYZ payload pending. The queues are working as they are one. They are all one. I need to think about this. I need to think about this. What can be the issue? If I start the instance again, controls. See, it worked. It worked. I need to check scan 0 counted. Yep, it worked. But still the job did not get flushed. 2 to 4 did not get flushed. There's also one issue there. Okay. And when I create this one, and then I create this, I need to have a TTL. I need to think about this. Today's session is going differently than I thought. What I need to do is let's create one more in our what we call it default queue. Okay, default queue payload pending, default queue payload pending, default queue payload pending, and it did not work. It worked after 20 seconds. Okay, so these are still remaining. These are stale keys. Job, it means member function is still remaining, and XYZ payload, XYZ pending, and this is not working at all. Let's add more to the hypothesis. What we found out, default works, but the payload, if I may get it from where's the Redis.co. Yeah, I need to go to Redis.co and the payload key. Payload key is payloads. The payload get deleted. What remains is jobs. So I need to go to job.go. What it does is store code go. Redis based helper function, decode division value, job to Redis hash, Redis interface to Redis hash, update status Lua, save. It saves the job, it gets the job, it never deletes the job. It never deletes the job from our job store. Job never gets deleted from job store. Alright. Second thing, other queues, then default don't work at all. Alright, so what I need to do is I need to check how this function I just wrote creates the job. So queue, it will get a queue, it will get a queue.queue. I only get a queue reference. Okay, so reference to the queue, what I do is queue.enqueue. the reference to the queue. What if I queue.queue? This should not be an issue. Enqueue works properly. So this function is working properly. This does not give me any problem. Enqueue works. Now coming to after enqueue, what happens? After enqueue, our after enqueue, a notification is published. So notification, how the notification is published is how the notification is received is written in pool.go. So let me just check it here. It will check the notifier pool.go. Okay, channel. Subscribe to notification worker failed. This it will check notification and also check after each after 100 milliseconds each. If it is a notification issue, this could be huge, and if it is not, this could be an issue why our memory queue is not working. I have to check this out once. Suspects, I need to add some suspects. Suspects are PubSub notifier fire, PubSub notifier. Second suspect is our DQ Lua script, but DQ Lua script will work only. Let me check when will DQ Lua script work. It works only on pool.go. It gets a subscriber, it will process the job. How it will process the job? It will the status if we have a DQ function being called. Control shift F DQ. Worker pool DQ is the job. That's the standard. But where does the worker pool DQ is the job? Process job. So process job is a function which gets job as a parameter. Where is process job used? Pool.go. Here process job, so it DQs the job. Here DQ of the job happens. Okay, so the main issue here is DQ never happens. Okay, DQ never happens for a particular queue. It will take queue. If it takes queue, if I pass it at queue's reference pointer, then I'll have to change it to invalid operation pool.queue variable, not an interface. That's also an issue. I usually think DQ Lua script best scenario, this is biggest flag. Like, next thing I need to do is check what I'm thinking. The bug I think is not passing by reference. I need a pointer, I think, but let's see how it handles. It will create a new queue, new worker pool. How is the new worker pool created? New worker pool gets a queue. main queue. Until this new worker pool will get a main queue. There's an issue here. Create a worker pool on the main queue. It only created a worker pool on the default queue because the main queue at the time was default queue. It never registered the queue in the face of XYZ and all that. So the worker pool never got to know that there is also a queue known as our XYZ. So for handling this, I think this I got the issue. The bug is not any of these. Okay, so final thoughts. Finally, I think finally found out the bug is that worker pool get registered using a default queue. So they never know about other queues. Okay. Let's one more thing. I need to check one more thing. Create a worker pool. Start the worker pool. When I create a new queue from here, so create a new queue. What I do is I'll go to queue factory new, which is a function that will create a new factory, and then it will return me a factory based on that, and it will create a new Redis queue. Only it will create a new Redis queue. After that, nothing will happen. So Redis queue is being created in the Redis instance, but it never gets registered to our worker pool. So it never gets recognized by the worker pool, and the worker pool thinks only the default queue is there. So default queue works regardless of if we are passing the job for delayed sequence, or if we are passing the job for any instance. So worker pool only knows about issue. Worker pool only knows the default queue. For that, I need to refactor the main.go by a lot. How will I do this? That's the question. How will I do this? Do I need to refactor main.go? I don't think so. I need to refactor main.go now. I need to refactor one thing is after creating, where's my factory function? Here's my factory function. After creating a Redis queue, I'll register the Redis queue to the worker pool. And also before that, one issue to handle, potential solution, shall fix register queue to worker pool, in register queue to worker pool in factory, queue factory. Okay. And second potential fix is one more thing I need to do is after registering the queue to the worker pool, and before that look why worker pool is not dynamic. Workers are always 100 as we saw in our matrix. GoTaskQ worker work underscore. I need to check for the worker active workers. So our active workers is always 100 regardless of what our regardless of if there's a job or if there's not a job. So pool.go needs some refactor. Mm, so I'll create some. When I start, it spawns 100 workers. Make pool.go dynamic. Make pool.go dynamic. Now coming to one more issue, that is our memory.go. Why is our memory implementation failing? So NQ works fine. I think NQ works fine. For this I need to. I'm thinking first I should focus on bug fixes regarding this one. The Redis part. I have a summary of what I need to do. I'll complete this part in tomorrow's stream. Till then, I'll follow along and explore more issues and workarounds, what I can do and what I shouldn't do. Okay, so I'll meet you tomorrow in the stream. For now, that's all. Should I push it to right now? Should I? I think I should. Let me just write it by AI. I should push this add route for creating jobs in specified queue. Yep. So this is working fine. This part has no issues. The issue was with the worker pool. Create job on queue handler. I should just add it to the next line for job. So I'll sync the changes to origin main. Also one thing more. What I will do is from the implementation, when I start the library implementation, I'll switch the branch. I'll leave the main branch as is, and until then the library implementation will be done in other branch. Okay, so let's go with the flow. I'll explore the bug more. If I found anything other than this, I'll update this and let you know tomorrow in our stream. Okay, bye for now. Thanks for watching.